So today we're going to talk about how buyers and your customers capture your attention. And I wonder how many of you would have stood in line for an hour. Did you do that? Stood in line for an hour and sat in the back of the room to hear your buyers tell their story. And yet, what we all know is that the buyer, the customer, is at the center of everything we do in marketing, right? And so what I hear, so I've been speaking here now, this is my 7th year. Anybody been here for 7 years? Anybody 7 years in a row? Anybody 8? The very first one? So we've got 1. Yeah, so you beat me. There's one guy in the back like this. Go for it. Greatest don't tell him the other conference organizer. Aunt Handley's not here, is she? No. That this is my favorite conference of all, hands down. And every year I come here and I talk about the importance of knowing your customer. And where's Douglas Burdett? Where are you, Doug? Yeah, so Douglas just said to me, do you ever get tired of saying that? And I'm like, well, no, because everybody's saying it, right? Is everybody saying that? Now, 7 years ago, I had to explain to people what a buyer persona is. Today, I'm still doing that, but I'm calling this Buyer Personas 2.0 because for the most part, people are building buyer personas, but here's how they're doing that. And let's check this out. Check with yourself. If you have buyer personas in your company now, how did you collect that data? And my guess is that you came to a website, maybe ours, or there's a million websites where you can download templates. You know, buyer persona template, Google that. You'll get a couple 100,000 hits. And then what you do is you sit in a room with your salespeople, or you get a few on the phone, and you say, you know, I want to build a profile for so-and-so. Let's see, does anybody in the room that could possibly sell anything, the product you market, Amy Poehler would be or Amy Poehler or Tina Fey would be your possible buyer. Anybody have something you could sell? And that's why you were there yesterday, right? Was to build your buyer persona? No, probably not. So we sit in a room and we ask the salespeople because after all, they are talking to buyers, right? So we listen to their stories and maybe we interview a few customers. We get a few really nice customers on the phone and we ask them, you know, what are your goals? What are your priorities? What do you care about? And some people even do surveys, you know, which is so frickin' easy. Like, why not? You know, just put a survey out online. Let's use SurveyMonkey or something and ask people a bunch of questions. And then what we do is we have all this information about our buyers. We know how old they are. I had to Google how old Tina Fey is. Anybody know? 48 years old, yeah. What did you guys think? Did you think she was younger than that? I'm telling you, these people in the show business, how do they do it? Anyway, so we know their gender, we know how old they are, we know their goals, we know all this crap about them, and then we try to cram it into this template, and then we circulate that around, and people mostly do what with that? Hard to come up with an answer to that question, right? And so people used to call me up and they'd say, Adele, we built these buyer personas and maybe we've even hired an agency to build them and they're gorgeous. I'm telling you these things, we got posters on the wall and these people are beautiful and we spread them all around the company and now what? And I'd say, well, send them to me and I'll give you some feedback. And then they send them to me and I go, I have no idea. I have no idea what to do with that. I actually don't know how to use that information. And the other thing that happens when we build personas this way is we end up with millions of them. Well, maybe not millions, but I don't know, pick a number. 5, 10, 15, 25. How many people, this is a contest. How many people in the room think you have more personas than anybody else in the room? Anybody? Yes, how many do you have? 33. Can anybody beat that? 33, anybody? Go on once. Go on twice. What company do you work for? No, you don't have to say. So, 33 buyer personas. And why not? When we collect all this information about buyer personas, I mean, now what do we do? Okay, we got men and women. Okay, that's 2 personas. And then we have 5 age categories. And then we have 10 industries. And we start doing the math. Can you guys do that math? I'm not a mathematician either. But heck, it's a bunch of personas. And this is insanity. It's purely craziness. So I'm here to end all that. And I'm going to make this really simple for you. Your buyer persona is not about profiling your buyer. It's not even about profiling your ideal buyer. It's not even sitting in a room and making stuff up. It's about understanding your buyer's experience buying a product, service, or solution like yours. It's about everything they think about, every thought, every concern, every objection, every issue they have, every question they ask as they go from awareness to evaluation, to research, to evaluation and purchase. It's about that whole journey. It's about somebody who had their hand up. Yes, I have something to sell to Tina Fey. What's an example? Yes. Life insurance. My gosh, she's got 2 young children. I'm thinking she probably has enough money to leave them anyway. I think, what did I see online? She's worth like $45 million. That's what it said. Can you imagine having that information about yourself online? I even found her weight. Oh dear. So probably not updated regularly. No wonder she said she doesn't get to eat New York bagels. Yeah. So, you know, it's about understanding their buying experience, their journey. Now, I'm betting that some of you have built not only personas, but you also have buyer journeys. And do they look something like this? Like steps in the sales cycle, and then you've got all the assets, all the marketing assets aligned with that journey, and now your team's busy building all the content for all these assets for the journey. So we got 1.0 personas, we got 1.0 journeys, and maybe we've got some idea of which personas go through those journeys, but they're not integrated. They're not built from and of each other. And so what we're ending up with is sort of this information that isn't very helpful to people. And furthermore, it isn't helpful to the buyer. I didn't get to hear Jay Baer's speech. Did anybody go to Jay Baer's session? Was he talking about being helpful to buyers? Useful, giving them useful information, answering their questions? Because this is what your buyers want from you. So we interview thousands of buyers, mostly B2B, some B2C, very high consideration B2C search products. We'll talk about that later. But as they go through their journey doesn't look like this. This is what their journey looks like. First of all, your buyer wakes up one day for some reason that you know not nearly enough about and says, I see an opportunity. I see that it's time to solve a problem, achieve a goal, do something different than I'm doing right now. You know, I am like, after this conference, I am going to go lose 5 pounds. I commit to it, right? Especially after seeing Tina Fey up there. So, you know, or I'm going to go get some life insurance. I'm going to go, somebody else tell me, what do you guys market? What was it? Shingles by roof? Like roofing material? Yeah. Okay, it's the day. It's time. Now, why wasn't I thinking about roofing material yesterday? Why wasn't I thinking about life insurance yesterday? Do you know why? Do you know what causes your buyer to see that opportunity? We'll talk more about that in a minute. Second stage of your buyer's journey is that they start to look around and explore their options. They start to say, okay, I have got to get life insurance. Let's see, I was in a session yesterday on marketing boring products. Anybody go to that session? Jonathan Kranz works for us. And Jonathan did a contest in the room to see who marketed the most boring product. And there were a bunch of people that submitted their products for consideration. I'm going to give the award to the person who has to market the wireframes used for real estate signs. Anybody top that one? Mm-mm. But this is the day. I've got to go buy some new wireframes for my real estate signs. And, you know, for that buyer, they have a need for that, and they start to look around and look for either your company or your competitors or somebody that you don't even know about, some other approach you don't know about. That's the second phase of your buyer's journey. That's their journey. The third phase is that they start to ask a lot of questions of the companies they found when they started to explore their options. Like, okay, can you guys give me, I don't know much about wireframes for real estate signs. Are they weatherproof? Like, what did you do to weatherproof them? Will they stand up to pressure if somebody kicks them and tries to knock them down? I don't know the questions either, but I do know, boy, life insurance, are you kidding me? I don't even understand how that stuff works. Health insurance, somebody offered up health insurance. I didn't think health insurance was boring. Did you guys think health insurance? Somebody actually thought that was a boring thing. You think there was a person who also marketed electric boxes, like electrical boxes, like the boxes that the outlets go in. Some of you in the room are going, does anybody have a more boring product than these? Anybody want to submit an idea? No, that was, what was it?
Bulk hoses.
Bulk hoses.
So just the tube in a giant spiral.
Of hoses.
No ends on it.
No ends, nothing to make it actually function. It's just a hose. Okay, Melissa. But there's buyers out there that have questions about those hoses, believe it or not. And they're asking you and they're asking their competitors. That's the next phase in their journey. Think about the content you're providing to help them at each of these phases. And then finally, the day comes when they trust their choice. They trust their choice. And that's when they buy, and not until. So this is what your buyer's journey looks like. Not that stuff that you've been putting around that was either your marketing to-do list, you know, sort of organized along stages and funnel, which is good. We need the marketing to-do list. But before we build that list, we ought to understand what that journey looks like for our buyers. And the really important part is which resources they want as they go through that journey. Because we're sitting around making this stuff up, and now we're omni-channel, and we've got 16 gazillion channels, and we've got the need to be publishers and publish all this content. We're sitting around in rooms making all this stuff up without understanding ever, but what does the buyer want? And this would be so easy, right? So what if we actually thought of our buyer personas as part and parcel and integrated with their journey? And what if we actually thought that the people who are the experts in that journey are the buyers? You know, like, why are we sitting in rooms asking the salespeople and doing surveys, which, by the way, the problem with surveys is it's all the questions we think are important. And then we get answers to the questions we think were important, only we had to make that stuff up. And so then we're just sitting there and we're in this like endless phase of like re-examining our own version of the truth rather than the buyer's truth. So I invite you to consider that the way to build a buyer persona is to go out and interview your buyers. Real buyers, not that buyer personas. This makes me so crazy every time I go and see a definition of a buyer persona and somebody says it's fictional. Well, wait a minute. For decades, because I'm a career marketer, I used to run marketing. I was a CMO for 3 companies, and I've been in marketing my whole life, longer than I'm going to admit to. Thank goodness my age isn't online. I don't think. Maybe. I haven't Googled myself recently. But anyway, and what we're doing is we're sitting around making stuff up, right? We're making up what goes in the content, what our messages should be, and what our value is, and what we're looking at our competitive differentiation and all that. And now, wait for it, we are going to make up personas to help us make stuff up about what to say to the personas. Are you guys following me? Now, why are so many people talking about this? I mean, I don't know. And if you guys figure out that answer, would you just come and see me? Or, I'm at buyerpersona.com, Adele Revella. You cannot miss me. Please let me know why so many people that we should say, go make up fictional personas so we can go make up fictional content. And has anybody tried to sell that internally and had people go scratch their head? And yet we just started, but we need these personas. And so if we sit in a room, and somebody said this to me at lunch yesterday, in an hour I could create one, and then we can check that box, right? And so why should I spend more time on it? And I literally had that question. Well, because it didn't help you achieve a goal. And so what if you instead asked your buyers? What if you asked your buyers, your real buyers, your competitors' real buyers, how they first came to the idea that they had a need to buy life insurance, to buy hoses, bulk hoses. There's people out there that buy this stuff. I mean, your company sells mostly industrial. Here's the first question. Take me back to the day when you first decided that you needed hoses, bulk hoses of this type, and tell me what happened. And the buyer's going to say to you, well, we had this problem. I'll do life. I can't do hoses. I don't know how to do that. I can do long-term care insurance. I can't do life insurance as well. But so real true story, 2003, my mother had a stroke. It was debilitating. And I watched my stepfather step up and, oh my gosh, give up his life to take care of her for the rest of her life. And the day that happened, I looked at my husband and I said, no way, honey. I mean, I love you madly, but I'm not doing that if that ever happens to you. And even worse, there's no way he'd do it for me. So I'm like, get on the phone, get a life insurance guy in here, and I want to buy life insurance. Now, I didn't have that idea. Now, people have probably been marketing that to me forever and ever, but that need came up, and it was a really emotional moment. You guys can relate, right? Would your husband do that for you? No, let's not go there. And so there's something that happens in your persona's life. And this isn't about asking this on a survey. It's about drilling into that. You probably always were at risk that your husband wouldn't have taken care of you if you had a stroke. Anybody in this room doesn't have life insurance, you don't have to say this because we don't want the lady there to... But, I mean, we're all going to die, right? And I think, last I checked. And so therefore, this is something we probably all should do. But some of us actually have life insurance, me included, right? And what happened on that day? What happened on the day that your buyer decided this was the day? And this is going to take some probing. So this takes some follow-up questions. So really, what changed to create that need? And, then it's about drilling in. Well, like what you just said about your need for life insurance that would keep your children safe is really interesting. Tell me more about that.